What if the final battle of human history is not something to fear, but something meant to awaken you? What if Armageddon is not merely the end of the world as we know it, but the unveiling of the world as it was always meant to be, a moment fixed in divine time long before calendars existed, yet revealed through a vision given around AD 95 to the Apostle John while exiled on the island of Patmos under the reign of the Roman Emperor Domitian, when the early church was persecuted, powerless, and surrounded by an empire that believed it ruled forever. And it is in that setting that the book of Revelation opens not with chaos, but with Jesus Christ glorified, sovereign, and fully in control of history. And from that revelation flows the prophetic arc that leads to Armageddon, a real place identified with the Hebrew Har-Megiddo, near the ancient city of Megiddo in northern Israel, a region that had already witnessed decisive battles centuries earlier involving figures like Deborah, Barak, Gideon, Saul, and Josiah, making it a symbolically charged landscape where earthly powers had long collided. Yet Revelation elevates it beyond geography into a cosmic convergence point, where spiritual rebellion reaches its climax. And as the narrative unfolds through seals, trumpets, and bowls of judgment, spanning symbolic periods that many scholars associate with the ongoing age of the church rather than a single date on a modern calendar, the tension intensifies as human governments consolidate power, deception spreads, and allegiance to truth becomes costly, culminating in Revelation 16, where demonic spirits go out to gather the kings of the earth for battle on the great day of God Almighty, not because God fears their strength, but because justice demands exposure, and evil must be seen for what it truly is. And then, without warning, Revelation 19 interrupts the expectation of a long, catastrophic war with a vision so abrupt and overwhelming that it redefines victory itself. As heaven opens and Jesus appears, riding a white horse called Faithful and True, crowned with many crowns, known by a name no one fully understands, reminding us that no empire, whether Rome in the 1st century or any modern superpower, has ever truly been in control. And unlike human wars that drag on for years, measured by dates, casualties, and shifting borders, this final confrontation ends not through missiles, armies, or strategies, but through the spoken authority of Christ, whose word alone dismantles rebellion, exposing the fragility of evil that once seemed invincible. And Revelation makes clear that Armageddon is not a duel between equals, not a suspenseful contest where the outcome hangs in balance, but a revelation of what has always been true, that evil is temporary, deceptive, and already judged. And following this decisive moment, Revelation 20 introduces the binding of Satan, not as a myth or metaphor for wishful thinking, but as a theological declaration that chaos does not have the final say, that history is not a random loop of violence and collapse, and that the suffering endured by believers, from the 1st century martyrs executed under Roman rule to those persecuted in later centuries, was never ignored or wasted. And while interpretations differ about timelines, millennia, and symbolism, the central message remains unshaken across centuries and cultures. Armageddon is not written to satisfy curiosity about the future, but to shape faithfulness in the present, calling believers in every era, from AD 95 to today, to resist compromise, reject deception, and live with allegiance to a kingdom that does not rise and fall with elections, economies, or empires, And this is why Revelation repeatedly emphasizes endurance, warning that the greatest danger is not global catastrophe, but quiet conformity, not sudden destruction, but gradual surrender of truth. And when Armageddon finally arrives, whether understood as a future historical event or the ultimate unveiling of Christ's victory, it will not be chaos spiraling out of control, but order restored, justice revealed, and creation realigned with its creator. And the real urgency of Armageddon is not about predicting dates or identifying political figures as villains, but about recognizing that every generation lives in the tension between loyalty to the Lamb and loyalty to the systems of the world, a tension that shapes choices, priorities, and identities long before any final trumpet sounds. So the question Revelation presses upon every reader is not, when will Armageddon happen? But who are you becoming right now? Because the book insists that those who belong to Christ are marked not by fear, but by faith, not by panic, but by perseverance, not by obsession with destruction, but by hope rooted in restoration. And as history continues to unfold beyond John's first-century world into ours, with wars, rumors of wars, technological power, moral confusion, and spiritual distraction, the message of Armageddon remains piercingly relevant. Evil will gather, deception will speak confidently, power will appear absolute, but it will all end the same way it always has in God's story, with truth standing unshaken and Christ revealed as King. And this is where the vision turns personal, because Armageddon is not only a future revelation, it is a present invitation, a call to decide where you stand before standing is no longer optional, to live awake rather than asleep, faithful rather than fearful, aligned with Christ rather than drifting with the crowd. So if this vision stirs something in you, urgency, conviction, hope, do not ignore it. Choose today to live as someone who belongs to the victorious kingdom. Anchor your life in truth, reject compromise, and respond not with speculation, but with commitment. Because Revelation's final battle is not meant to paralyze you with fear, but to propel you into faith, perseverance, and a life lived ready.